That's a little softer because I'm feeling soft. Hello, my name is Lana, and welcome to my humble abode, my sacred space. I am here to uplift, support, inspire, and empower others through sharing my personal life experiences, my downloads, my insights, and life, it's a journey. And when we show up authentically as we are, we give others permission to do the same. So your vulnerability allows others to know it's okay. And before I even started this video, I realized I went in, and back in 2016, I spoke about authenticity, about vulnerability, and having tolerance and compassion for others. Because on another level, although it's challenging, because we in this culture, in society, have been taught that to be vulnerable, to show our authentic self, oh my gosh, we're not supposed to do that, because there's shame around that. There's weakness. Nobody wants to be seen as weak. You have to be strong, suck it up, buttercup. You're supposed to trudge along, continue on your path, forge ahead. Without hard work, things don't come. There's so many of those old sayings, those old beliefs, the old paradigm, the old patriarchy, when the reality is authenticity and vulnerability is the new sexy. You showing up. We're not talking about, we're not talking the wishy-washy kind either. We're talking the, I'm owning my feelings. I'm willing to sit in them. And if someone asks you, you're willing to share that this is where I'm at. I'm okay with that. Not trying to, hey, how's the weather kind of deal. Oh, it's okay. It's great. Yeah, everything's fine. No, we want to really know that you are willing to sit in your stuff and own it and not let it own you. Because when we can feel the feels, we don't project them out. We don't make others feel what we feel as a punishment, if that makes sense. I mean, how many times have you been annoyed, frustrated, upset, angry, had something going on within you, and then you took it out on others? That's because you didn't feel your own feelings. You weren't willing to sit in them. No, it was easier to project it and attack out than to go within and have compassion. See, this is the new twist on life now. This is where everybody has a choice. You notice something's bubbling up in you. Everybody's been under the pressure. Everybody's been under the squeeze, right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Haven't you been feeling something's not right? Eventually, something's got to give. And if you're not choosing to dive in deep and actually confront it, it's going to eventually explode out because it'll choose for you. Like I say back years ago, and more than just one occasion in my life, where when I wasn't making the choice, God stepped in and said, come on, enough's enough. You didn't make the choice to change. We're going to make the choice for you. And it can be anything from you not listening to your body in its own ways of communicating to you. Your body has a language that only you understand. It could be like an achy shoulder. Dealing with mine, I know what mine is. It's always trying to shoulder responsibility that's not mine. And I've expressed that, and I've shared that in my previous videos of how when I was younger, I had to grow up quickly because of unforeseen circumstances. It's like I became a parent for myself and my sisters and even my parents. Now, I took on that role unknowingly, that it wasn't asked of me, but when we're young and we're children, we don't know. We adapt, and that was one of my ways to adapt to the environment. When I didn't feel safe, I felt like I had to also help others feel safe. So where I couldn't take care of my needs, I had to find ways to get them met. And every one of us has coping mechanisms, survival skills, in order to get the unmet needs met. We learn them in childhood, And we adapted over time, and we never stopped to recognize that those were just maladaptive for the period. They were meant for those times for us to also acknowledge, wow, you know, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And as we become adults, it doesn't necessarily seem relevant to still be acting out those past patterns, those past traumas, but we're not conscious of them most of the time. Unless you have the support network, you have the therapy, you have the tools at your disposal, the parents that know what's going on within you as well as themselves. Like all of our parents did the best they could. So we can't be pointing fingers out when we're adults now. In the moment you recognize, then you can learn to have compassion. Like think about if you're a parent. I shared this with someone earlier in my class, how I'm not a parent, so I don't have children. I just remember what it was like to be the child. So for me, it's so pronounced and profound for me that when I look at children and I see certain things in them, I recognize my childhood in that. And so I'm able to kind of connect on that level. I understand and I recognize the manipulation. There's a little twinkle in their eye. They look at me and they're like, they feel seen when they see me because I see with my own childlike eyes. I'm not trying to, you know, like a child in the store that's screaming, throwing a temper tantrum. What is that really saying? Most of us are like, God, oh, that's annoying. You know what I hear? My mom's not paying attention to me. She only pays attention to me when I throw a fit. And I'm only doing this here because she'll be embarrassed and she'll give in to me. So that's manipulation. And most times that continues out in life. That child, as an adult, will be throwing temper tantrums to get their way because that's how they got their needs met when they were a child. And when you start to recognize your patterns, because they're all formed in your childhood, and ideally, that's one of the things, how and why do we repeat patterns? Because eventually there's a point where, I've been here. How many times am I keep on repeating the same experience? Just different characters, different players, different locations and scenarios, scenery, but the same storyline, the same familiarity. It's an energy thing. And you have to take responsibility for the energy you bring and that you're emitting, radiating out to the world. Because if you're not paying attention and tuning into because you're a tuning fork, and especially, I know women, we're very powerful manifestors. We are always creating the energy around us. We have 2 halos, nipple to nipple and ear to ear. Halos is also arc line. And women, we're super sensitive, so we feel things, right? Men, I actually believe men could feel it too. It just depends on how tapped in you are to your feminine. It's always in us, masculine and feminine. But ultimately, we control the energy and the space that we're in. Sit with that. Are you aware of the energy that you bring to an environment, to a space? Because if you're not tuned in, and you're tuned out from what's going on around you, you're just going to get caught off guard. That's why if you go through some of my old videos and you just listen, I speak a lot about how we attract where we're at. If you're not tuned in to your senses, heightened in your awareness of the information, the data that you take in through 5 senses, through your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, and you're touching. We are just like computers. Our data entry is through our 5 senses. And when we take in data and we sharpen and hone those senses, we heighten our intuition. Because the spidey sense kind of goes, oh, wait a minute, now I'm feeling stuff that's not tangible in the 5 sense realm. And it taps into that higher realm. That's how you can raise your vibration and how you can raise your intuitive sense and channel and download and really like work on yourself. It's not like brain rocket science over here, people. It really is just being present with what is. It's feeling the feels. You know, I've been saying this for years. Feel it to heal it. You got to feel it in order to heal it. If you don't feel it, you're numbing it out. When you numb the pain, you numb the joy. The only way you're going to heal is if you're willing to feel all the feels. And we humans, we came down as souls wanting to feel it all. We came for the whole, I love to say, le mélange, the varied experiences. We're here to get like all these scenarios. Like there is no good or bad. The soul's just like, give it to me. I want to juice it up. I want to feel it, all the yumminess, the muck, the grubby stuff, the dirty stuff, the yummy stuff. Like it's sweet, it's sour, it's salty, it's spicy, it's edamame, you know. It's like umami. We're here for it all. But somewhere along the way, we got a little hijacked into this whole choosing, cherry picking what oh, I want that. Oh, I don't want that. You know, the more willing you are to just experience it all, not be so, you know, overly sensitive and like, oh, I'm prima donnas and I'm here. Listen, if you can get dressed up and you can still get dressed down, you don't mind getting dirty every once in a while, but you love to be cleaned up. Embodiment of everything that you experience, as opposed to poo-pooing and pushing it all away. Like we are all about expansiveness, but when you're contracting, that's because you're pushing away, right? Deep rest, depression. It is just a rejection of what isn't working, what is going on in your life. It's actually a judgment on yourself, really, what depression really goes back to. So I wanted to come on here especially for a couple of reasons, because it really is, to me, very important that we recognize this will never go out of style. The more authentic you are with yourself, the less fake you will be going out. Like, think about the people who have been in your life. Maybe they're still in your life. That you maybe on the side are like, oh, that person, they rub me the wrong way. They're not authentic. They say one thing, but they do another. They're not in integrity. You know, they cheat on this one or they lie to that one. Like you see all their stuff, right? Do you know the only reason we see people's stuff? That finger pointing out while you're judging and pointing fingers, blaming and shaming, is because you got 3 pointing back. And I like to say they represent your past, your present, and your future. So those 3 fingers pointing back are essentially saying, when in your past have you done this? Because that's the only way you recognize it. You spot it, you got it, own it. Don't deny it. Because when you deny your truth, you're just reinforcing your lies. You're validating and justifying why you're not authentic with yourself. That's part of the authentic point, right? Your present. Is it possible I may be doing that now? These are just reflective moments. Like when you point a finger out, just always come back to, where does this reside? Has it been in my past? Is it currently in my present? Or am I about to do it myself? Like it could happen at any moment. And 9 times out of 10, I know I've been tripped up where I'll make a subtle, very, what I will consider a harmless statement, judgment, assessment. You know, we can call it whatever we want. Maybe it makes us feel better that if I don't call it a judgment, you know, I'm just assessing the situation. I can just observe, right? I'm just witnessing it. But the truth of the matter is, a judgment versus a discernment or an awareness and witnessing something, you have to recognize, am I being cruel? Am I inflicting some form of a harm? Which is a separation from another person. Now, essentially, the only reason we come up with that is because we are comparing ourselves. Judgment, discernment, all that stuff comes from where we've been and comparing ourselves to what we're presented with, what we're seeing. So when we see these situations, they're opportunities for deeper self-awareness. Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? And remember, when you are judging somebody, and this is where I go back to, I've been tripped up in the past for myself, where I've made that harmless judgment, assessment, observation, that I realize not but moments or hours down the path, I catch myself doing exactly what I just witnessed that person doing. I've done it. Or By making a judgment of another, I may be chopping veggies and I'm just mindlessly thinking I'm comparing myself to somebody and it's going through my mind, oh, I would never do that. Wow, I don't know how they do that. Clip, I cut myself. Pay attention to what unfolds in your life. It's these little subtle things that occur that make us go, what was I thinking just now that I caused and inflicted harm on myself? That's energy. And when you are authentic and realistic with yourself and truthful, like you really like own that, like, wow, I cut myself because in my mind, I was actually comparing myself, judging another. Might have been harmless in the moment. It's just a thought. You think it's harmless, but it turned into an actual infliction of harm upon yourself. And that, in my previous videos, I've spoken about how when you judge another, you're judging yourself and you break your own heart. Because what we inflict upon another, what we project upon another is really a self-infliction, a self-judgment. Because we're all mirrors to one another. And when you really get into the nitty-gritty of all of this life, God is in all of us, right? So recognize the other as you. And recognize there is God in all. And if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. So when you come back to the home, the heart knows, it feels, it knows the truth. When you see another and you start creating a story, you start judging them, placing blame, shame, you go down that road, it's a lame game. Once you start doing that, what you're doing is creating this boomerang effect. If you can get out of that and go back into neutrality, you can observe something without placing a label on it or judging it or, you know, whatever, choosing, oh, it's good or bad, whatever you do. Being authentic with yourself and owning as opposed to it letting it own you. Because what's happening is so many people are unaware of the power of their thoughts, that they're magnetizing and drawing to them all of these inauthentic experiences, all these inauthentic people, because they themselves are coming from an inauthentic place. When we place the mask on, we step into our roles, walking out our doors. Okay, I got to perform a certain way. I have to put on this character today to satisfy, to keep the peace. Why not? What is it really that keeps you in those places? Can you be honest with yourself? Honest with the other? I tell you that the more honest you are, the more authentic you are, being vulnerable in it. Sharing that, you know, this is just not working for me. It doesn't align. When you align to your truth, you'll no longer deceive yourself. You'll no longer draw in people of less than desirable characteristics, behaviors, the way they treat you. Because as I was saying earlier, that when we try to fake the funk, we're just drawing in more fake. When we're real, when we're authentic and vulnerable in that authenticity, when we are in our integrity, we feel so much lighter. And what is that? It's you tapping into your inner child. Your inner child, you know, it's playful, it's giddy, it shows up, it's like, I feel so better. And if you think about how over the course of your life, when you were a child, you were curious. You were like, the world is my oyster. What's this? What's that? Let me touch, let me taste, let me smell. Oh, let me see it all. Let me take it all in. When you look through the eyes of a child, you tap into your inner child. It's so much lighter, so much more freeing. Whereas being and wearing a mask that is not who you are, does not even align to your inner child. That's heavy, it's exhausting. And eventually, something's got to give, because you can only fake the funk so long before the funk gets found out. So we have to maintain the story, thinking, Okay, what did I say last time? Okay, I got to stick with the same terminology, the stories, the languaging, the persona, whatever. That's exhausting. And people wonder why they're like, oh, it's been a rough day. Or maybe certain people drain you because you go into a character to 9 times out of 10 appease them, not yourself. You're not being authentic with yourself. And let me know in the comments, does this resonate with you? Or have you been experiencing this? Because like I said today, I went into my class and it was just a full-on download. It's really true that the pressure's on right now. And this has been like this for a long time. We're all getting squeezed. I've been talking about authenticity for months, okay? Squeezing you to the point where what only remains is your authentic self. That even the stuff that you're like, but I can't let that go, that's my blah, 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 is essentially not really in alignment with your authenticity. It's in alignment with your material side. It's alignment with your fake side. You can do without it. I guarantee you can. You've been there, you've done that, now you can do this. And this will really set you on your path to your greatness, to your highest quality of life, because that's what we're meant to do. Not to keep on playing small and, you know, oh no, I'm fine. Lying to ourselves and lying to others, really? How's that serving? Somebody asks you how you are, but you're really not that well, and you don't want to tell them because you're afraid of rejection, or you're afraid they won't want to hear about it,